all those who are present. First of all, thanks to our peanut gallery. Special kudos to you all for coming to watch the slaughter that's about to take place. Secondly, I would like to thank the opposition for agreeing to put themselves on the chopping block for the slaughter. And finally, I would like to thank my lovely and exotic partner, who has contributed many ideas to this case and no doubt will be also a major factor in the slaughter. She is the blade, I am the sharpener. All right, so let's move on. The resolution we've been given today is this House would sacrifice freedom for security. We will go on to Observation 1, Resolutional Analysis, Subpoint A. This is a resolution of policy. The resolution says this House would sacrifice. Implied in the terms would sacrifice is an explicit call to action. The resolution specifically directs us to sacrifice freedom in favor of security. Therefore, we have decided that this today is a resolution of policy and we will debate it as such. Moving on to Subpoint B, the definitions. We have several definitions for you today. First, we will define this House as the United States federal government, USFG if you're flowing and playing the home game. Second, we will define the word sacrifice. We define the word sacrifice here as to give up something for the sake of something else. To give up something for the sake of something else. The third definition we will offer is that of freedom. We define freedom operationally here, but we'll give you the context in which we're going to use the term freedom. Freedom here will represent the freedom of information on the Internet. Freedom of information on the Internet. We will also define security operationally, and here it will be national security as it pertains to terrorism. If you have any questions about our operational definitions of freedom and/or security, please feel free to ask during the PM speech for clarification. Otherwise, don't bring it out in your tea without clarifying it first. Moving on to Subpoint C, the criteria. We will use the commonly accepted criteria here of net benefit. So if we can show you that it is net beneficial to sacrifice freedom for the sake of national security to prevent terrorism, then we should win this debate. You have to show us that it's not in our best interest or is not beneficial to sacrifice freedom for security. All right, we got that out of the way. Any questions?
No. Yeah, one more time the definition of
freedom and sacrifice.
Really?
Yeah.
Sacrifice, give up something for the sake of something else, and freedom is operationally defined as freedom of information on the Internet. Moving on to our first contention, which is harms. Subpoint 1. Currently, there is a large amount of information available on Google Earth and other sites such as it. Subpoint A, you can get satellite maps of locations. Like literally you can go on Google Earth and you can see an entire satellite image of a city, a building, a location, a military base, lots of different things. Subpoint B, there is also what they call the street view on Google Earth, where you can actually look at what buildings look like from the street. For example, if you pull up my house on Google Earth, you can see someone else's car parked in my driveway, but you can also see my house number, you can see what it looks like, all of my windows, doors, etc. You might even be able to see that I have cats, I don't know. All right, moving on. Number 2 here is that this info covers a number of sensitive areas. Currently, on Google Earth and other satellite imagery sites, you can get sensitive information about targets in the United States and other places in the world. First, you can get information about United States military installations. I personally have looked up Camp Pendleton and Los Alamitos Army Airfield, both of which are in the Los Angeles and or Southern California area. And you can see detailed maps of roads, security installations, buildings, etc. on these sensitive military installations. Like you can actually see where the airstrips are on Los Alamitos Airfield. You can see what the guard posts look like on Camp Pendleton on Google Earth. Other sensitive areas include things like power plants and utilities. You can see research facilities like the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. And this is just in Southern California. You can even see tourist areas, and it's international as well. Like I looked up a detailed map of Disneyland Paris, and you can actually see where specific rides are in the park. You can see entrances and exits. You can see all of these things through the use of Google Earth. And to some degree, you can get even more specific information with Street View. That ties into the B subpoint here, which is that you can often see important things like routes of entry and exit. You can see gates, you can see windows, you can see doors. Like for example, at Camp Pendleton, you can see exactly what the guard setup is like on the gate. You can see where the guard tower is, how they route cars in and out, where the fences are, all those kinds of things. I think that's kind of bad. I think my partner agrees with me. Which brings us on to the third part of our harms, which is that this information is being used by terrorists and extremists. The A subpoint is the Mumbai attacks this weekend, which killed almost 200 people. Google Earth was the primary way that these terrorists gathered information about the hotels that they were going to attack. It was the primary way they got information about what the streets looked like, where the entrances and exits were to these hotels. Like they gathered their information off Google Earth, and that is one of the things that the Indian government has 100% confirmed, is that Google Earth played a significant role in these terrorist attacks this weekend. The subpoint B here is that this is not the only time that this has happened in India. The Indian government has actually complained multiple times that terrorists have gathered information from Google and other satellite websites on their military installations, power plants, and other sensitive organizations in their country. country. And the C subpoint in here is that China has had the exact same problem. The Chinese government, after the attack this weekend, said, duh, we told you so. We've been complaining about Google Earth for months now because we know that extremist groups in China are gathering information on Chinese military installations. This leads us to our plan. The United States federal government will regulate satellite imagery on the internet. Plank 1, the FCC will direct Google to immediately cease and desist operations of Google Earth. Plank 2, Congress will also pass a law making it illegal to post satellite or street map imagery on the internet. Funding will be through normal means. Enforcement will be through the FCC and law enforcement agencies. Moving on to solvency. If we incorporate our plan, there will no longer be this database of sensitive information available to terrorists saying like, hey, please come attack our touristy things, or hey, please come attack our military bases. Here's how you get in. Here's how you get out. Here's who's on guard at this time. Like, we won't have that information out there. The next part is that it protects these sensitive areas and these targets, which provides us with greater security. If terrorists don't have access to this information, you're out of time, sorry. If terrorists don't have this access to this information, they like can't suddenly attack our military bases. They like won't have as easy of a time getting into Mumbai and blowing up a bunch of hotels. And it doesn't compromise the prevention. Like, if I've set up at our military base, like Camp Pendleton, for example, a whole security guard post and all these kinds of things, and terrorists can easily figure out how to get around it, that compromises the security prevention I have set up. This plan solves for that. Moving on to our additional benefits. Additional benefit 1 is we have a moral obligation to do this. Like, we have to protect little Timmy when he goes to Disneyland and expects to be able to ride like the Dumbo flying elephant ride and not get blown the fuck up. So we have that obligation. Secondly, we have to protect our troops, like people that are guarding our military bases, things like that. They put their lives on their line to protect us. We need to protect them by stopping giving terrorists information about where they're located. Additional benefit B is that it increases our soft power. It says to China and India that we hear their concerns and we recognize them as valuable allies in the fight on terrorism. And additional benefit 3 is it sets a precedent for good, positive restrictions on free speech. Like, it says that we can restrict free speech and we can restrict information without completely destroying the fabric of our country because it prioritizes security. And that's why you need to vote government in this debate. I wasted too much time on arms.
Yeah, you did.
I'm gonna move.
Good. I feel like there's a pizza in front of me.
I always think that.
I'm like, I don't know.
Ooh, pizza. No. Or I think there's a cookie in there. I get excited.
All right, now we will hear a speech from the Leader of Opposition. 2 days in it. Bring it. No cut Simon Farley, let's go.
Probably took it the different direction and we should have accepted that.
Oh well.
Oops.
Okay, let me...
Not our fault, you're not prepared.
No! Actually did, for his coach.
Okay, if I'm your judge, I'm starting your time, so...
Okay, first of all, thank you to everybody that is here, to the Peanut Gallery, to the government team for creating a riveting point of debate, and to my wonderful partner for helping me prep out these off-case positions. First of all, I want to go 1, 2, 3 off-case, and then on-to case. First, I am going to start with disadvantage number 1, which is America's foundation. Uniqueness is America was founded on individual liberties and individual rights. B, the link is the government's plans to more or less eliminate our right to search and to do whatever we choose to post on the internet. C, the internal link is we lose our individuality and we lose our individual rights to our freedom of speech by not being allowed to put whatever we want to put on there on the internet, because technically it is free open space. We can do so. I will get to you as soon as I'm done with the impacts. D, the impact is by losing America's foundation, and we don't know where it's going to stop there. We don't know if they're just going to stop with the just limiting our internet. Who's to say that it won't lead to other areas of individual rights, which could then lead to dictatorships, leads to oppression. We can lose a loss of human rights, which is what America values strongly. And the fact that we would lose our, in essence, our identity as an American people is a very bad thing. Yes, sir.
All right, two-part question, if you will. First, did I choose to have a photograph of my house put on Google Earth?
No.
Okay, so am I giving up my human rights by having imagery of my house available to all the public?
Anybody can drive by your street and take a picture.
Okay, but
I'll continue. Second disadvantage is economy. Uniqueness. Currently, the economic situation that we're in is very, very bad. We are currently in a recession and therefore don't have the money to be spending on other different ventures. B, the link. The plan plans on spending money. How are they doing this? They're creating a new area of the FCC by more or less regulating Google Earth and by not allowing by not allowing, I'll get to you as soon as I'm done.
You're here. Keep going.
By not allowing, I just totally lost my train of thought. The plan, basically the plan is going to spend lots and lots of money. We don't know how much because they said funding by normal means, so they could possibly be raising taxes or doing whatever. C, the internal link is that the current economic situation does not allow for additional spending for new projects to be created because we don't have the money to do so. D, the impact is that more spending when we don't have the money could lead from a recession to a depression, which then leads to loss of life. People will starve. Last depression, people were committing suicide because they didn't know what to do anymore. It's a very, very, very bad thing, and by doing so, we'll be deteriorating the quality of life. Yes, sir. I'll get to your question. 2 of 3.
Doesn't the FCC already regulate the internet?
Not the way you want them to.
Shame?
I don't
Double
know.
shame?
Okay, and then third off-case position is we had this prepped out, but oh well. Anyways, I'm gonna run with it. The disadvantage is family values. A, uniqueness. Family values is a prominent institution in the American lifestyle and culture. B, the link. The plan plans on eliminating family values by not allowing people to go on the internet and search freely and quickly. C, the internal link is if we implement the government plan, we will lose family values because people will not be able to search what they want and what they need and may not be able to find the address to their relative's home if they choose to do so. D, the impact is the deterioration of society. You also deteriorate the quality of life. By deteriorating the quality of life and deteriorating society, you could, in essence, halt immigration. You would slow down the people wanting to come to America because there no longer is an American dream, which will thus slow down the economy and lead to our other disadvantage, which is depression, recession, and all that other bad stuff. Yes, sir. 3 of 3.
Awesome. Have we at any point in our plan or anywhere else in our case said that we were going to stop people from looking up their relative's address or take maps off the internet?
No. I'm sorry.
I welcome your answer, not just my partner's.
I'll let your partner's answer stand.
You're here.
Let's see. I don't know. This is totally off the wall. Wild. Oh, how much time do I have left?
2:54.
Okay. Getting on the case. Let's see here. The harms, they said basically, let's take this. 3 harms, I kind of more or less going to group all the harms together. The fact that people are getting information off the internet is I mean, it's not that prevalent.
Shame.
Not that prevalent. I mean, let's see, the availability of information. I mean, yes, there is a bunch of stuff on there, but I mean, people do not go onto the internet to actually find out how they're going to do it. They actually mastermind. If they wanted to really commit a huge terrorist attack like those of 9/11, they wouldn't go and do all the research on the internet. They actually need to show up to the airport. They actually need to do a lot of infiltration. They need to do a lot of other additional things. So the fact that the information is available on the internet isn't the cause or the root of all evil. The fact that these people are ingrained with all of this stuff already and they're choosing to do it regardless of whether they get the information or not off the internet means that it's not going to prevent anything. I mean, like you said in your question, they can still go on there and get an address if they choose to do so. So the fact that the information is available and all that other stuff is not really deterring any terrorist activities because the terrorists are going to commit the crimes whether they can get the info online or not.
Here, here.
If they can't get it, they're going to go about it in other ways by actually going to the location and doing actually hands-on research and basically doing their homework, which is what they are doing now. Getting on to the solvency, solvency. So therefore, they're stating that basically the plan is going to solve by not having the available information available, but yet like I said, if they don't necessarily need the information off the internet, they can still go get the information elsewhere. Covers sensitive information and routes of entry and stuff like that. Well, maybe the places of information, or I totally lost where I was going with that. Give me 1 second. So the info covers number of sensitive information, for example, U.S. military institutions, detailed maps and roads and such like that. But, I mean, like I said, all these military institutions and a lot of these bases sometimes are even open to the public. A lot of the people that are on base, their families can come and visit, and they even sometimes give their family members tours. So who's to say that it's just all foreigners? Who's to say that couldn't be somebody that on the inside planning or even assisting another terrorist group that wants to actually do harmful things? The fact that just because we eliminate the availability of it on the internet is not going to eliminate the problem, which moves to that's okay. So therefore, didn't even get to the benefits. Therefore, you should vote for the opposition.
Comes the pain.
All right.
Can you smell that? It smells like flowers and pain.
Does it smell like flowers? Okay. Thank you everyone for being here. I want to especially extend my gratitude to the opposition team for putting up a great fight, and to my fantastic, beautiful partner Jeff, and to the Peanut Gallery for coming out here today. Before I go to the line-by-line judge, I want to point out to you something very important. The resolution today asks that this House sacrifice freedom for the sake of security. All we have to do as the government team in today's debate is show you how sacrificing some freedom, which the opposition has granted in this case, is access to Google Earth and maps like this on, not maps, but the satellite imagery like this online, for the security of the U.S., of the world. So, if you believe that passing plan is going to be net beneficial, which we have all agreed to today, you're going to be voting for the government team. And clearly you're going to do this, because I am first going to go straight to the additional benefits and show you how this outweighs any possible shred of disadvantage that the opposition has at the end of today's debate, and then I'm going to go in the same order that the Leader of Opposition did. So let's go straight to the additional benefits. The first additional benefit here, Judge, that the opposition agrees our plan upholds is that of the moral obligation. As my partner brilliantly points out, little Timmy at Disneyland wanting to get onto Dumbo can only do so if we prevent the terrorists from taking over the Dumbo ride and planting a bomb underneath little Timmy's seat. If we don't do that, little Timmy's going to blow up with Dumbo. And in addition to that, the troops are also put at risk if we don't pass plan. So everyone in the room today agrees that we uphold this moral obligation by passing plan, which is why you're voting for the government team. The second independent reason that you're voting for the government team already is because, as my partner brilliantly points out, we have an increased soft power with the nations of China and India. Now, this is extremely important for the United States federal government, who's been suffering in the soft power department for quite some time now, which is increasing the idea that terrorists would even have any motivation to attack the United States. Also, the third additional benefit that we all agree to today is that of the precedent for freedom of speech. The second that the opposition team agrees that we are setting a good precedent for positively restricting freedom of speech, takes out their first disadvantage completely. I will go ahead and go to the impacts and turn those because I can, but you're going to see that this disadvantage goes away anyway because they agree with us on the additional benefit 3. So those are 3 independent reasons why you're going to vote for the government team today. But let's go directly to the line by line, starting with the first disadvantage of America's foundation. Let's drop down to the impacts. My first response is turn. The United States federal government is constantly in a negotiation of freedom of security. The idea that we are looking to go to our forefathers having some sort of freedom as the sole foundation of the United States federal government is in fact empirically denied, because obviously the founders were looking to have a secure nation as well, and that's why they got out of England. My second response is turn. Look to my partner's point of information when he talks about his own individual freedoms. Now, by the government, or by the opposition team telling us that America's foundation is so important, individual liberties, well, by posting Jeff's house on Google Earth, we are denying him as a human being any sort of individual freedom whatsoever, and inviting people to come into his house and destroy his cats. Second, on the econ disadvantage.
And that makes me sad.
Instead of an impact turn here, I'm going to do a link turn, because my partner points out in his point of information, as well as in the plan text specifically, we are not spending money. This takes out their link completely. We are not spending money. The FCC already has a budget, and they regulate things on the internet. It does not cost money to take things off the internet. They're simply stopping these things from, in fact, it might save them money, because you don't have to, so that would turn that position as well. The econ disadvantage simply does not stand in this round. And third, disadvantage of family values. My first response is this disadvantage is nonsensical and does not actually apply whatsoever, but let's drop down to the impacts anyhow. And that is turn on their lowering immigration and lowering of quality of life, because this in fact increases quality of life and therefore would increase the desire for immigration, because since the U.S. will be a safer place to live and a better place to raise a family, more people will want to come to the U.S. and tour the U.S., so that will boost our economy. That would take out that spending VA anyway, and it will make more people want to immigrate to the U.S.
Can you also, maybe you don't want to link turn it.
I don't need to. It doesn't matter. And besides that, our three additional benefits that the opposition agrees to outweigh anyway. So let's go on to the harms debate, and then at the bottom I'll get to anything that you think you need for your rebuttal. So on the harms debate, the leader of opposition groups and simply says that this is not prevalent. That's his only response on harms. The terrorists don't use Google Earth. Look down to the A under the 3 on the harms debate, where specifically my partner tells you about Mumbai attacks, which I'm pronouncing horribly, I'm sure, in India, where the terrorists specifically used Google Earth, and the government of India has made it very public that the terrorists were only able to get the information they needed by using Google Earth and things of this nature. So I have 3 responses to this is not prevalent. My first response is empirically denied. Look to my partner's original argumentation and current events going on right now. My second response is true. Terrorists may always be terrorists. They may always be evil people. Fine. But they have to follow through, and the internet makes it much easier for them to do what it is they set out to do. So even though people who are evil are always evil, if we are giving them a tool that makes their evilness even easier to do, that only allows them to be more evil. So my third response is perhaps the terrorists are always evil, but if you think that all we do is delay the terrorism by a tiny bit or save even one life, that is net beneficial over the status quo, and the point at which the opposition team provides you no alternative whatsoever but the status quo, you're always going to vote for the government team.
Hear, hear.
Finally, on the solvency, they tell us that the terrorists could be on the inside. That's true, but look to the specific example of bases. Bases are specifically secured, and people can only go into certain areas. You have to have a certain level of clearance in order to go into other areas that are more secure. So clearly, U.S. precedent says, in the case of security, in order to defend our freedom, we have to give up some of this free flow of ideas and free flow of information in order to protect the individual, which is why you're clearly voting for the government team in today's round. Good luck, member of opposition.
Get it down.
beyond fodder.
That's awesome.
If you want to, yeah, you can do it.
I'll give you time signals too, buddy.
Dude.
Like I finally figured out I don't have to hold it up the whole time.
All right, Angel. Your biggest job here is to stay as organized as possible.
Let me get.
So I'm
can do it.
gonna talk about my two disas.
Talk in the same
Say-
order.
just say-
Same order that Luis went.
So-
Unless you want to respond to that overview.
So just like, do I have to say like two off case and one on case?
No, just say same order.
Same order that you went in.
Mm-hmm.
Say same
Cool.
order as my partner, and then go.
But what if I don't? What if I want to address something that you said?
That's fine, but you're going to attack each position in the same order that Luis put them out. That means disadvantage 1, 2, 3, then the case in order. Right? Is that the order you're going in?
Yeah. Well, so what I just say, I get up and say I'm
Same order as my partner. That means the positions are going to be in the same order, but you're going to attack things that Crystal Lane said as you get to each position.
Okay, so just say everything he said,
Mhm.
and then the things that she turned, I say like I'll.
You don't need to say everything he said. What you just need to say is, okay, same order. You would start off with like disadvantage 1. Okay, we're going to go to the United States U.S. Foundation. Crystal Lane said blah 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 blah, or the leader of opposition or member of government said blah 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 blah. My answer to that is such and such. You don't need to repeat everything Luis said unless you want to,
Okay.
unless it helps you.
Alright.
So, and then I can pass you notes while you're up there. So.
You just investigate.
I'll give you time signals.
Be your charming self.
Alright, so let's do it. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I'd like to thank the judge, of course, for being here, judging this great round. I'd like to thank the government, obviously, for putting forth a great and interesting case, and also for my great and smart partner who helped me to put together this case and defending our stance. And so we're going to get right into it, and I'm going to go in the same order that my partner, the leader of opposition, went in. First, we're going to go to the first first dissat and talk about the America's Foundations. The member of government, she said she addressed this first disadvantage by saying that the founders of our nation were looking for a secure nation as well as a free nation. And so when she said that our founders were looking for a secure nation as well, they're not giving them a totally empirically secure nation by just taking away Google Earth. They're just taking away one tool that the terrorists could use. And so they're not really addressing that issue of security that she said that the founders were looking for. The government is addressing a portion, a tool, but not the main tools. And taking this away, as my partner said, it won't really stop the impacts that even other tools will have. So taking away Google Earth, it will sort of redirect them to go to different tools, but it won't bring them to a point as to where they'll have to be totally stumped or even float. So the impacts, she never even addressed the impacts of this disadvantage, and the impacts that my partner gave were that it would lead to, taking away these freedoms would lead to dictatorships, or you don't know where it'll stop. It could lead to oppression, it could lead to loss of human rights, and these very things that America was founded on. She never really addressed these because she never really said where it'll stop. It starts there, but we never know where it's going to go. So you can flow all of these impacts from this disadvantage too. You can flow them all the way through.
There you go.
So second, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to address our second disadvantage, and that's the economy. The economy, I'll take that. So that second, I'm going to address the second disadvantage, which is the economy. And the member of government, she states that the FCC already regulates already regulates the internet and the things that are on there, so there won't be additional funding. In fact, it'll probably help. It'll probably help funding, but in our
They have to spend money somehow.
Yeah, but they have to spend money somehow. They have to put forth. It's going to be a policy that's enacted. This is a resolution. This is a policy resolution. It's going to have to take some action. And so, since it takes action, there's going to need to be funding somehow in order to take away, because obviously Google isn't just going to let Google Earth be taken away. They're going to probably put forth, I'll get to it after the statement, they're going to probably put forth like lawsuits, or they'll probably take it to court, they'll probably try to address legal issues, and obviously this will take money and this will take funding in order to enact this. And as my partner stated, we are at a time of economic crisis, and we just simply cannot afford to go and enact this policy when we have bigger fish to fry, bigger deals, bigger issues to address. Go ahead, 1 to 3.
Okay, let's say the resolution is the United States should more aggressively enforce its speeding regulations. Would that translate into an action of enforcing speeding regulations?
Enforcing speeding regulations?
Yes. Will we give more speeding tickets then?
Yeah.
Okay, would that generate money or cost us money?
I already answered your question, first one. So,
well, I get 3, right?
So
be it.
Okay, and then so going from that, going off of that, I'm going to address the harms. Well, the harms that the government gave were that they opened up basically America and all of like sort of like a blueprint of America and like our tourist attractions, military bases, and Google Earth gives them a view and it helps them to plan. But there's other maps, there's alternative ways. I mean, these harms really aren't, solved by taking away Google Earth. In their solvency, they seek to take it away, but it really doesn't take much away because the harms will still be there. They never address anything in solvency as to how to stop them from going to other maps. And in his clarification when my partner was addressing these harms, he said that they never stated that they're taking away maps, just Google Earth. They never stated that they're going to regulate any other sort of like an alternative form of Google Earth on the internet. So they could still go to Yahoo, they could still go to other forums like MapQuest and places like that, and they could still find images on the internet. And as my partner stated, you could go and you could drive by and you could take pictures in any place. You could enter into a military base as a tourist, and you could actually visit these spots, and they could do these things in alternative ways. And who's to say that it will take more time? I mean, who's to say that this was the obviously we agree and we acknowledge that it was used. It was used in attacks this weekend, but who's to say that is going to be and always will be the primary use of terrorists? I mean, who's to say that taking that away will actually...
I'll get to her as soon as you're done.
I'll get to it as soon as I'm done. So, who's to say that will actually cut the time that it takes for them, because it takes for the terrorists to actually work out their plan or even come up with their plan. So, go ahead.
So, is the opposition advocating that we get rid of all maps? Is this your counterplan?
No, we're just saying that we're just addressing the fact that your solvency doesn't really address the harms. It addresses a harm, but it doesn't really solve for much. It doesn't really solve for much because all it does is just sort of mask a problem. It doesn't really do much, and so that's all we're trying to say. And lastly, I'm gonna. How much more time?
A minute.
A minute. So lastly, I'm just gonna go on to something that Benjamin Franklin once said. Benjamin Franklin once said that those who will give up freedom for security do not deserve neither, and they will lose both. And so Benjamin Franklin was saying this because he knew that people who seek to give up freedoms for security, it really doesn't come to a point where it's beneficial, because they're trying to seek security through giving up freedoms, but we're trying to give more freedoms, and that's basically what we're established on. And we don't want to take that core value of America away. Like we said, we don't want this to progress into something further. They never addressed these impacts, and we don't want it to go on to dictatorships and oppression, and we don't want it to keep on going as we stated. So therefore, we'd rather stop it, keep American freedom in place as it is, and therefore, that's what. Therefore, you will vote for opposition. Thank you.
All right, leader of opposition, you have 4 minutes to convince us to vote for you.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Peanut Gallery. Thank you to the opposition team for being here today, and thank you to my fabulous partner. I'm going to get right into it, and I have 3 voters. First is our voters. First, I'll start with the disad on the American Foundation, which, first of all, they never touched upon any of our top points. They just went straight down to the impact, so they're more or less agreeing that America's Foundation is somewhat important. But they totally forgot and skipped over the fact that where will it end? They never state where will it end. The fact that Google Earth is just one part and not all the places where you can get maps on the internet or even information on the internet, it could lead to potential further policies, further limitations further on down the road. So again, it's like, when will the oppression end? The fact that there is no end in sight, the fact that multiple other things can be brought up on top of it after the fact, I mean, who's to say that we won't be losing our right to go and believe in something because they happen to have maps, or because what about our right to having to put whatever we want or whatever we choose on the internet? I mean, when will the oppression end? The fact that we're being oppressed also leads to dictatorships. I mean, who are they to say what we can or cannot believe in, what we can or cannot post openly and freely? I mean, how do we know that maps isn't somebody's religious value or somebody's religious beliefs? They believe in the topical
Point of order.
I know, that's really bad.
Okay, continue.
I understand.
Ready?
I got that one.
Done. Go.
So the fact that we're being oppressed could potentially lead to dictatorships later on down the road, because they'll be basically telling us what we can and cannot do with ourselves. Getting on to the second disadvantage of the economy, they said that there's already a budget in place for the FCC, but this is only going to be one thing that they're regulating. If they continue on down this road, they're going to start to regulate other things, and they're eventually going to run out of money.
This is the first time we've ever had the FCC regulating things other than plan mentioned on this disadvantage.
I don't get it.
You have never ever mentioned on this disadvantage that suddenly it's going to start costing all this money because the FCC is going to go on a regulation spree.
I had him mention that it's going to cost money.
But never because of a regulation spree with other forms of regulation.
Under consideration, move on.
Okay. So the fact that they said funding by normal means obviously they're going to be spending money, so they're going to be getting it somewhere. So the fact that we are currently in an economic recession, which could lead to depression, which could then lead to economic ruin and people being depressed and losing their monies and losing their lives and starving to death, is a very bad thing. And then also getting onto the disadvantages of family values, again, they just literally skipped over all the uniqueness and everything and just jumped straight to the impacts. So the government team obviously agrees that it's somewhat important and family values is a prominent in American lifestyle and culture. So if we lose that, and then it's going to create a bad image of Americans, which could potentially lead to the halting of immigration. And if we halt immigration, the economy slows down, and it leads back to the second disadvantage, which is of the economy. So for those reasons, you'll be voting for the opposition there. And getting on to my second voter, which is the even-if voters. How much time do I have left?
120.
Yeah.
Okay. So the even-if voters. So even if you totally don't look at our stuff, let's look at the plan. Their plan is to basically limit Google Earth, and that's not the only place you can get information from. There's various other different websites that necessarily
Point of order. You're grossly misrepresenting our plan text, which clearly has a second plank, and you had plenty of time to clarify that.
I'll think about it and then move on.
Okay, keep going. Give him a minute.
totally threw me off.
Okay.
What's your second plan? Oh, we had time to clarify.
Hold on, I'm lost here.
The FCC is going to regulate satellite imagery-based things, not just Google Earth.
Okay.
So just continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Okay. Yes, go for it. So the fact that the FCC is going to start regulating satellite imagery doesn't mean that they're going to be able to get everything. There's current websites that necessarily don't have anything to do with maps, but yet they provide some type of image of something, whether it comes from a satellite or whether it comes from them jumping on a plane and deciding to take pictures from over above. I mean, it can be my flight experience. Who's to say where these images are going to come from? You know, where the fact that there is no possible way to regulate everything 100% is still going to give you the possibility of people still wanting to go out there and get the information to become terrorists IRS and do what it has to do. So in essence, this gets to the big picture here, which is my third voter. Do you want a world where the government is basically going to oppress our individual rights, our individual freedoms, to the point where we don't know where it is going to end, to the point where maybe they may get some solvency, but there's no guarantee of that? You're always going to vote for the opposition because our individual rights are more important.
You're here.
You didn't say point. That one time you said port.
I'm voting for government. I should be a voter.
The cool part failed. Or do you have
Wow.
important information to tell us?
Do you have to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little late already.
If you have to go, you have to go.
But
Are you videotaping this whole thing?
Yeah.
Then,
go ahead and go.
yeah.
I can, meeting should be over like around 6:15, so I can come back if you'll still be here.
Okay.
Okay, I'll come back.
See you then. He's running away.
Run away! Run away! Okay, blanket round of thank yous again. I want to thank the opposition team for putting up a pretty good fight. I want to thank the Peanut Gallery for coming and hanging out and videotaping, and I especially want to thank my partner for her brilliant MG speech, which just, you know, kind of obliterated everything in this round and makes my job of sweeping up the pieces into a neat little pile very easy so that I can show you why you'll be only voting for the government in this debate. In order to do this, I feel like I need to, first, I'm going to touch on a couple of quick responses that I need to make on case, then I'm going to attack their voters, and then finally I'm going to give you our voters and show why there's no doubt in your mind you'll be voting for government. You probably knew that after the MG anyway. Okay. On case, okay, on the harms, they keep saying this thing, like, my partner gives three great responses, that it's empirically denied that this is not prevalent, that terrorists are evil, yes, but we shouldn't make it easier for them to be evil. And they have no good answer for this argument, that, like, we are making it easier for terrorists to be evil. You know, we can't stop terrorists from being bad people. Like, I can't go in and tinker with their brains and make them unbad, but I can make it less easy for them to blow me up, and that's what I would like to do. They also drop my partner's brilliant analysis that if we delay a terrorist attack or if we save a single life, we have improved security and therefore that is net beneficial. They didn't even touch this. Their only response is there are other places that people can go to get images. And my response to that would be the internet is the primary way. And at the point at which they drop the third section of the harms here, which says that Mumbai was directly a result of Google Earth and people using satellite imagery to kill 200 people, we win. Like, they don't have an answer for that argument, and therefore you must buy into the government's story here on harms. I think that's all I need there, because the rest of it's going to come out on the voters. So let's go through the Leader of Opposition's voters first. Okay, the first voter they come up with is the foundation argument, and they say, well, the big thing here is that we never answered where it would end. And I'll tell you why we don't need to answer where it would end. There's two reasons we don't need to answer where it would end here. The first is that my partner puts like 3 impact turns on that disadvantage, which means it doesn't matter where it ends because it all flows over to our side anyway. They don't answer my partner's impact turn that the United States federal government is constantly balancing freedom and security, and there is no reason to expect that this would suddenly like trigger this massive rock slide of like dictatorship and human rights abuses, and that this is important for our government to actually balance security with it. They also never answer the brilliant term my partner puts on there, which says that like my human rights are being violated and my individual freedoms are being violated by pictures of my house being put on the internet without my consent. Like, that's never answered, and therefore you flow that over, and the disadvantage now flows to our side as well. They also don't answer the fact that additional benefit 3, the precedent for good restriction of free speech, takes out the entire disad, even if you're not buying that story. On to their second voter, which is the econ dissed. They said, we said normal means, and that means we're spending money. No, that's not what it means. Normal means the FCC has a budget, and we're just going to put ourselves into the FCC budget to do what they normally do. Normal means. That's exactly what it means. It is exactly what it says. The FCC already does this kind of stuff. Like if tomorrow MySpace lets 50,000 child predators onto its website, the FCC has the power and the money to stop them. That's what they do. We are not spending any additional money, and even if you don't believe that, like my partner Link turned it, it just goes away. All right, on to the disadvantage 3, family values. At the point at which the MO doesn't even touch this disadvantage, it leaves the round. Like, we were tired of doing points of order, so we didn't attack this one. But like, the MO never touches it, and therefore it goes away. The other thing is my partner impact turns it and says that this actually plan would encourage immigration. And at the point at which plan encourages immigration, we capture all the advantages from that, and therefore you'll be voting for us anyway. There, even if voters, like they say, plan is to get info from from Google Earth. They ignore the fact that there's a second plank of plan which bans other satellite imagery sites. At the point at which they keep ignoring parts of our plan, there's no way they can win. We never claimed we had 100% solvency. Like, we didn't claim we were going to stop all terrorists. We said we're going to stop terrorists, like, we're going to slow down terrorist attacks. All right, our voters. The reasons why you're voting for us. Number one, our additional benefits, never touched. 3 of them. We have a moral obligation to Timmy and the troops. You vote on that alone. 2, we increase our soft power in cooperation with China and India. And 3, we set a precedent that destroys 2 out of their 3 disadvantages. The second voter is, does plan improve security? Like, are we net beneficial? The answer is clearly yes. They never touch our solvency. In fact, they grant our solvency, that like we wipe out these images from the internet and now people don't know how to get on Camp Pendleton or don't know how to blow up my house. That's a good thing. At the point at which they grant Mumbai was caused by Google Earth, we win this debate because we take that away and we could have like prevented Mumbai if we had passed plan like 3 weeks earlier. And there's no answer on the idea that these images are all over the place. And then the third reason, if you're still not convinced, is you vote on the disad terms. Like, I think it's a lame reason to vote for us, but the other 2 are so much better. But if you don't buy those, you vote on the disad terms. You know, Ben Franklin may have said that, but Ben Franklin also didn't have Al-Qaeda using satellite maps to blow up the Liberty Bell and attack his house. And I think that's the reason why you vote the government in this debate. Do it for Timmy, do it for the troops, America first, edible panels.